session of Watson County Board of Education to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Nice and followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. It is wonderful to see such a large crowd for wonderful things happening. So I will turn it over to
Ready?
Mrs. Porter.
This is the best
Student
part.
recognitions.
Student recognition. Okay, look at our crowd. I love this. We have a lot to recognize tonight. Do we have? You guys need to scooch in. Come on in. We'll make room.
Scooch.
Yes, come on in here. You guys. How about you want to go over there on that wall until we get your name? Yes, come here. Is that good? Okay, all right, here we go. So tonight we're going to honor our 2025 National TSA Conference. The first one I'd like to recognize is Chloe Anderson from New Martinsville School in 10th grade. Systems Control Technology competed in career prep.
Not 10th grade. 10th place.
Tonight?
10th place, not 10th grade.
10th place. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
10th place.
That's what those are. They just
Okay. Braxton Briggs from Long Drain School competed in Junior Solar Sprint and Microcontroller. Julian Conaway from Hundred High School, 8th place Design Dragster. You want to have it with the board members?
That doesn't matter, that's good, just like that.
Just like that? Awesome job. Arizona Fortney, New Martinsville School, 7th place. Digital photography competed in children's story and problem solving. Okay. Lily Giovinazzo, New Martinsville School, 10th place. System control technology and competed in microcontroller. Austin Hayes, Hundred High School, competed in Senior Solar Sprint, Robotics, Board Game Design, CAD Engineering, and Manufacturing Prototype. Austin Hayes. Zoe Jennings from Long Drain School, competed in Solar Dragster and Microcontroller. Owen Kennedy, Long Drain School, competed in Flight, Dragster, and Junior Solar Sprint. Zachary Lloyd from Magnolia High School, competed in Extemporaneous Speaking. Amelia McPherson, New Martinsville School, 10th place in System Control Technology, competed in problem solving. Laura Lee Morgan, New Martinsville School, competed in children's story and promotional marketing. Vincent Sigley, Wetzel Tech, 5th place in transportation modeling, 9th place in senior solar sprint, and top 16th design and dragster design. And, get ready for this one, Connor Snitten from Hundred High School placed first in transportation modeling. Awesome. Okay, now I have the 2025 State Home Site Champion Team and the Reserve Champion Land Judging Team from Valley High School. Please welcome Ruthie Edgel, 100 individual points in both contests, high individual points. Layden Stevens, individual second in home site evaluation, 4th in land judging. Carly Pittman and Jacob Myers. Awesome job, Jacob.
You guys might just see back to school.
Magnolia High School. This team includes Jacob Norton, Brooklyn Kennedy, Victoria Strickland, Ari Barner, sorry if I messed that up, Alyssa Hubbs, Elizabeth Johnson, Olivia Homan, and Olivia Magruder. Please come up.
One, two.
Great job. Okay, and the state FFA degree from Magnolia High School, can we please have Kyler Fortney, Joey Bito, Harley Weichert, and Carson Wade. Okay,
I
I
wanna
want to
make-
make another round of applause for all of them.
I want to make a comment, it doesn't take long to read through all those names, for what you've accomplished is amazing, and we're very proud of you, and keep it up. And I might even get some pointers from that chapter, meeting team that knows what they're doing. So, thank you very much, and thank you to the parents that have supported them in their efforts. Now, if you do not wish to stay, we will not be offended if you want to be excused. You are welcome.
Jeff, I don't draft you.
That doesn't count.
No, not you.
Or leave.
Me, I should know. Okay, all right, third thing on the agenda is superintendent's information.
Okay, so I'd like to report out on our leadership retreat that we went to last week. We actually had 2 board members attend with us, and if you can see all around the room, we have put up what we worked on as a leadership team. And I do have some principals here that's probably gonna wanna help us out with this a little bit, but just let me give you a breakdown. This right here was the pre-K 8. That's what they kind of developed, and I'm gonna let Eric talk some more about that. Over here, kind of behind Craig and Jamie, where it says Magnolia Valley this way, that's what they worked on. And then behind Mrs. Miller is the altogether accomplishments that we worked on as a team. And I have to say that I have never been more proud of a group of educators, because the amount of work that we put into that leadership retreat and working with our leader and me and our covey and getting to one combined mission was just amazing. So is it okay if I start with you, Eric? Just give us a
Absolutely.
little bit of your take on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we walked in, the elementary staff kind of walked into an interesting situation because Mrs. Miller and Mrs. Shepherd have been working together to kind of sort of develop a mission statement for the high schools and a vision, the values. And whenever that was shared with us, all of us elementary principals looked at it and said, yeah, that's good. We almost just carbon copied it. But as we looked at it and getting feedback from everyone that was in our group, we really tweaked it to make it true to what developmentally appropriate is for the kids that we service. So you can see that, they are similar, but yet there's small little tweaks that are different. I think though, from a grand point of view, the beliefs are the same, the values are the same, and the vision is the same, because essentially we want to make our students, we want to make them accountable, we want to make them able to be successful in the world they are going to live in, and we want to make sure they never stop learning, because once you stop learning, you start changing, you stop growing. So we always want to make sure that they're constantly learning. And then if you look at the WIGs across the board, all the schools were tasked with if we could change just one thing to make student achievement better or our school environment better, what would it be? So I can speak for Shortline and 100 Heritage because we work together, and we came up with an ELA goal, and we're going to focus on vocabulary and how that used in various contexts throughout the day, and really have like the subject-specific vocabulary and how that's integrated across all the subjects, and how, you know, anacrusis is a music term, but it means pick up. So if you drop your pencil, oh, anacrusis that off the floor. So that's something that you're welcome. So there we go. So that was the elementary side, and now I'll turn it over to the high school side. So Mrs. Miller and Mr. Shepherd.
As Dr. Reverend Inch said, we have been working together, Jackie and I, because we are one school in two buildings. We know where we're headed. We want everyone to be where we're headed. There's nothing we do differently. We're doing everything together. And I think we all, high school, middle school, elementary, we all have the same values. We want what's best for our kids. We want them to take ownership of their learning. We want accountability across the board. And we really thought about things that matter. Are we preparing them to function outside the four walls of our buildings? And all the work that we put into it, we put a lot of work in. We had a lot of teachers working with us. We took teams with us.
And it was really encouraging because I didn't have team members at the leadership retreat, but we had our academy day yesterday, and so I went over all of this with them. And it was just so encouraging at the retreat and yesterday because when we talked about the higher expectations and the things that we need to put in place to make sure that our kids are ready for whatever they're going to do after high school, our staff is excited about it. And they want to do whatever it takes to help our kids be successful. We didn't have there wasn't any negativity. There wasn't, and when we talked about the mindset of one school, two buildings, so that we can get our kids ready to move forward into our consolidated school, I mean, they're on board. And they are, like, our handbooks are exactly the same. We sat down, the 4 admins, and we went through everything, our staff handbooks, our student handbooks. So across the county, the policies are the same, discipline, everything is the same. And when we relayed that to our staff too, it was like, I mean, they're just a relief that the expectations are in place, that there's accountability, and they are taking ownership. I think our staff.
We saw that today. We had Cubby training today for our staff, and they work together as a school, not as two schools. They're working together on developing goals and how they were going to approach it, and everybody talked about rigor and accountability and all the things we want for our students.
And the big thing is for the high schools is increasing test scores and having more students that are proficient in reading and math. Math especially is a weak area for both schools, and having promise scholars, we didn't have a lot. And what do we need to do? And they came up with some really good, they identified our areas of improvement, they came up with a process, and there is complete buy-in for how we're gonna move forward. So we're really excited about the school.
They're going to continue to work tomorrow.
Yes, and we have another day of cubby training tomorrow, so.
And I'm gonna pass to you right now, our 2 head principals at the high schools have been working on the curriculum. Very hard to try to make it align as much as possible. It is still a work in progress. We still have some holes, but they have worked nonstop to make sure that our teachers are highly certified. Oh, there you go. Or that if we have to Skype a class, worst case, we will do that, but you can see that they have worked to align it. Now, we did have 3 teachers from Magnolia get certified in AP, and I know that Mrs. Shepherd will work on that going forward as well, but we do want all of our kids to have the same opportunities. So we will probably have to have a little bit of distance learning to fill in some of those gaps, but just the coming together and to working on the same vision and saying, no, our kids all need the same opportunities. How can we do that moving forward? So from last school year at this time to this school year coming up, tremendous. I have to give a big shout out to Mr. Houston because he does work tirelessly with Covey and Leader and me, and he put together our whole leadership retreat with the people from Franklin Covey So I do wanna say thank you, Mr. Houston, he's got a great vision, he keeps everybody on track, and he works with our high schools top notch, so thank you for that. You wanna add
Thank
anything,
you.
Mr. Houston?
I just wanna say that, the retreat was really, it was great, it really was. And our teacher leaders were phenomenal. I mean, everybody that attended they were phenomenal, but, you know, they're not just making up the collaboration. Our board members were there, they could see it, you know, I just know that, we kinda laid out an expectation of what we wanted. Mrs. Porter, myself, our other, you know, administrators weren't dictating how to do this and how to do that, and it was our teacher leaders, you know, we laid out an expectation and where we wanted to go, and our teachers leaders formulated that. This came from them. You know, we would, you know, say, okay, this is where you're going, and, you know, what about this thought? You know, and maybe they took it or they didn't. But it was a group effort. It wasn't just one person, it was the whole group. And, I'm really glad about how things worked out. I made this comment, I mean, 33 years in the county, and I'll be honest with you, I don't believe we ever had a focused, unified mission, vision, belief system. Not everybody coming together to make it. It was usually one or two people that kind of made it, and then we all. But this was actually, you know, stakeholder driven, not Mrs. Porter driving at her, or Mr. Houston. You know, it was our teacher leaders and our administrators all working together. And they're not joking, the high school crew was a little bit ahead of the elementary crew, and it wasn't because they're better people, it's just they've been working a lot together.
But the elementary crew caught up real quick.
They did. They did.
Of course they did.
Thank you.
You know, so, you know, they kinda had a mission and vision laid out, but then the elementary crew tore it apart. And then come back with, you know, some subtle tweaks here and there, and, you know, we look at it, we're like, that's okay, that's good,
Yeah.
that's good.
Mrs. Nice had a front row seat to that final mission.
I did. I had a picture of that aha moment, because I think I said, this is great, this happening, because as you guys were putting pieces together, you pulled some of, you know, the teachers and other admin back together, and I think everyone was just, yeah, like it was flourishing right there. I do wanna add, you know, at first there was some people, like whenever we were getting ready to get back together, you know, looking at their clocks, or when are we done? But you would have never, it was like you had to pry everyone away from there. Once everyone got into it, you had that group working, talking, discussion, people couldn't write fast enough, same thing over here, ideas were flinging across, and I really felt like a lot of the things that they brought up on a piece of paper that I have tucked away in one of these books, all those topics were hit. You guys were really hitting on the things that were important, that needed to be like table discussions, not water cooler type discussions, and we were all on the same page. It was a beautiful thing, and I was really glad to be a part of it.
We really appreciate you guys coming with us.
By the way, a wig is a wildly important goal, okay? Not just what you put on your head, you know, but, that's what it is, a wig, and, you know.
Mrs. Mitchell, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I was just really impressed by the cooperativeness of, you can't tell who's a principal of what school. You know, everyone's working together as Wetzel County, and that's really, hopeful for the future and our plans. You know, you really could not distinguish, even the teacher leaders. I constantly had to ask, now, tell me again what school you're from. You know, you couldn't tell. There was not a separation of goal or mission. So I was really impressed and grateful for that, so.
Thank you.
Thank
I do have a question about this. So is the discrepancy, like, you know, some of them have a little bit more on one category, that's strictly due to staffing, right?
Yeah.
Or lack of staffing?
Yes.
Yep.
So we're coming, I mean, it's better than it was last year.
Much better than it was.
I can
better.
tell you that we have half as many vacancies as we did last year at this time.
Okay, so it'll even get better.
Yes.
And we have some leads on some other things too, so it's not,
And then the other thing is, you look at the bottom where it says new offerings at Valley,
Right,
well, one of the reasons it could happen is because we've
come together.
come together, you know what? If we come together even more, it's gonna push all this together. We'll not have to worry about, you know, these AP courses that they're missing, you know. We'll have teachers already there in place to teach that.
That's the goal.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you have?
Yes.
That was a lot, I just didn't want to go over it, sorry.
Is that all you got?
There's more on the agenda, but that's
Okay. The superintendent's recommendations is number 4, for approval of minutes of the regular meeting, July 8th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? It's been moved by Mrs. Nice, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mitchell, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries unanimously. Under personnel matters, on page 4, we are striking Sydney Walton for the athletic trainer at New Martinsville School. So now under personnel matters, we have retirements, resignations, professional personnel, service personnel, extracurricular, and a leave of absence. Do I have a motion for approval of superintendent's recommendations as outlined under personnel matters? It's been moved by Mr. Glasscock, second. Second by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, under routine matters, A, authorization for the superintendent to fill vacancies. We do this yearly so that we're not backed up when the school year starts, we can get as many people in classrooms as possible. However, it does have to, get our approval after we run this meeting. Okay? Release from Watson County Schools, we had 3 requests to attend Watson County Schools, we had 1. Approval of produce bid for the 25-26 school year, the SRO agreement, and out-of-state trip. Do we have a motion for approval of the superintendent's recommendations as outlined under routine matters? It's moved by Mrs. Nice, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Mitchell, any discussion? I'll just have one comment. I was amazed at the cost of produce. That's all I'll say. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Treasurer's report, approval for transfers and increases in the budget.
I have nothing for you.
No, that's easy. Okay. First and second readings of revised and deleted Wetzel County policies. Now, we can do this all at once, or if we need to discuss any of them, we can pull it out separately.
I would prefer to do the first readings separate from
Yes, that
the
makes
ones
sense.
above.
Okay, so let's look at the ones that are the second readings, which are the first 5. 3 of which are revised and the other 2 which were deleted, and this is on our second reading. So do I have a motion for CA, CCA, CD, FG, and FI?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Castillo, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Nice, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's look down at the first reading ones. So the first one is GBEE, acceptable use of technology, internet by employees. Anybody have anything on there that they want to discuss? I was happy to see that you addressed a lot of the issues that we had when we discussed as a group before.
Yes.
That you addressed them.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you wanna share to us about?
Do you want me to kind of just that one right now, or go to the student side as well?
You can do both,
They're
you can do all
similar,
of them.
okay, yeah, so for the student side, we took the changes that have been made by the state legislature that have been placed into law that we discussed at the last board meeting. So we put that in, the definition, we also have in the consequences for K through 5 and then 6 through 12, or I guess pre-K through 5 and then 6 through 12. We also have in there how the LSIC will annually discuss this, it's reviewed with them, how parents should contact the school not to message their children through text. We talked about that the last time as well. For the past several years, we have been using a locking storage device for the phones. We put that into the policy as well. There was some discussion at the last board meeting about smartwatches, and Mrs. Porter and I went back and reviewed that again. So smartwatches is actually covered by the legislative language, that's no longer permitted. So that's put into the policy. So, students who bring a phone, put their phones in the yonder bags, they can put their smartwatch in there as well. And then on the staff side, we decided to just address it there. If the students aren't to be on their cell phones during the day, then we felt that was, fair to the same thing for staff. So we just copied the same language from the legislative definition and put it in the employee policy.
And if it's in the legislative and the state policy, then we have to follow that.
Yes, correct.
My only concern was, and this is something I think we need to address, our LSICs don't really work the way policy says sometimes. So I think we need to put some more, and many times, and as principals, I know you're booked with stuff, but, not just pulling somebody in so you can say you had a meeting, but actually having more input and power. So I think that would be good.
Well, and I think it's also important for us to emphasize the policy of student device and everything. There are a lot of school systems throughout the state or county that are struggling with this right now. I mean, there are several, like Wood County has got it out for public input, and several other counties, they're not sure where they're going. And at least we're on the mark. We may have to modify it somewhere, but they're dragging it out, and nothing negative to those counties, but they're having problems getting on focus and everything.
And I wanna point out that under the employee side of it, we copied the language, like I said. It says during instructional times or during times of supervision. Okay, so that's when the staff would not be able to be using their cell phones or their smartwatches, during those two times, instructional times and times of supervision.
And board employee means anybody we pay, is that correct?
Those are our employees, yes.
Aides, teachers,
Bus
Okay.
drivers, everything. Service and professional.
Top to bottom.
And it does have in there that, students are coming home on the bus and they're gonna be later than usual, the bus driver can tell them they're
Right,
allowed
and
to
that's
go.
always been in the policy,
Right.
so if you're coming home from a ball game and you're running behind, the driver can tell the kids, you can let your parents know that we're gonna be home at 9:30 instead of 8:30, something like that, so.
But they're not to be used for taking pictures or texting or
Right.
anything. Okay. All right, do I have a motion for approval?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the dual credit policy,
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just looking at one at a time, but okay.
I'm sorry,
We can go down to the next one, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, dual credit policy,
So for the dual credit policy, Mr. Kimball's not able to be here tonight, so Mr. Houston, I think we can answer these questions, hopefully for the first reading, and Mr. Kimball can fill in better for the second reading. But basically what he did, what he had told me was that he took the state template and then also added a list of the courses at Magnolia High School and Valley High School, what classes are offered as dual credit.
and we may discuss some more of that later and when we talk about class ranking, but
that's what
for
I was,
right now.
yeah, we're gonna get to that sometime, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that, it's
Thank
down
you.
there. Okay, and then, we already talked about the other, the student.
I'm sorry?
You talked about all three now.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right, do I have a motion, to approve all three of those? That's GBEE, IKC, and JI on first reading.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Castelo, is there a second?
second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mitchell, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. I need to move up, and I didn't say this at the beginning, and I apologize. I need to move delegations up to now. I should have done it at the beginning, because I always move a delegation up if it deals with something that we might be voting on in the meeting. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the delegation now with, Mr. Monceau, to talk about support for the purchase. You'll have 3 minutes in which to speak. And
first
please
of all,
remember, one moment, please remember that you're to address us and not the crowd. You address us and nothing personal of nature.
Correct. Okay, I do wanna thank you all for, again, working hard to try to solve a major problem in our county that would benefit all of our students. And we can see the results of it now, going from 4 high schools to 2 high schools, and with our abilities to hire certified teachers and the different programs that will be offered. And I guess wanted to support you all for what you're doing and get you to realize that I sent this text message to one of you that just yesterday, my wife and I drove by the Brooke County High School facilities in that Cross Creek area. I know some of you have been there. Well, I'm old enough that can remember Cross Creek before all of that was there, okay? So at one time, they had to take the risk of purchasing that property at what was probably a high price for them at that time. But they looked at the future, and when we went by there yesterday, seeing all of those facilities with the middle school and the high school right there, bravo to the Board of Education of Brooke High School in about 1965, because that's when they made that decision. My wife and I are both from Hancock County, so we often see Weir High School and its facilities, and as well as Oak Glen High School. Some of you know I was on that staff when Oak Glen was formed, and I spoke with one of our students at that time yesterday, and he called me to check on me, and I just went over the idea that where Oak Glen High School is situated, again, there was nothing there. That board took that chance to realize, hey, we're looking at the future, not what it looks like now, but what it will eventually look like. Oak Glen has fantastic facilities, and you can go on and on and on. Wheeling Park, when Wheeling Park was started, there was no road from the Wheeling Park facilities down on National Road up to the high school. They had to build a road. And so all I'm trying to do is get you all to recognize that we're proud of the fact of what you're trying to do. And our students in the future, God bless them, will be proud to say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it enough, so appreciate it.
Perfect timing, thank you. Okay. The next thing on the list is discussion and possible action of board goals for the 2020. No, I skipped it, sorry. Discussion and possible action for potential purchase of property in which to build a new school.
So I asked Mr. Baker, Craig Baker from Thrasher, to come. I know that he has spoken with us in executive session, but I wanted him to go over that so that the public can hear straight from the architect that we hired about the different properties. I know we have one piece on the table, but I think he can elaborate a little bit more. And I'd like to have just an open discussion about where we are before we would decide if we wanted to go into executive session or not. So Craig, please.
Absolutely. And I brought a number of copies of this. I didn't bring enough, but make sure the board and superintendent can get copies of this. So this is a very similar document to what we spoke about in the executive session a few weeks ago. As you know, we have been in the process of some of the, items that we typically check when we are looking at pieces of property, specifically to the McDiffit piece. But I thought it would, and Mrs. Porter thought it would be good to come in and basically kind of refresh everyone's memory, and specifically for the public knowledge of what we did. So, backtrack a little bit. So we started this process. We were extremely limited on pieces of property that were available. The Thrasher group, which I'm with, we looked, board members looked. At the time, we really didn't have anyone coming out to offer up options for property. As we sit here today, I think we evaluated somewhere close to 10 pieces of property. And we evaluated those on different levels. We have tools at our disposal to be able to look at topography, wetlands, streams, floodplains, etc. And ultimately what we did is we narrowed it down to what we felt were the 3 best that checked all of the boxes. And what you're going to see here is a side-by-side comparison for each of those pieces of property. And what I tried to do is really kind of boil it down in basic terms so that we could all have an open discussion about it and allow you to ask any questions. So the first piece, which it was actually one of the first pieces that we looked at that we thought would work well, was the Blake property, which I believe you all are familiar with out on Route 7. And what you'll see in this handout is a very high-level conceptual sort of drawing that we did that took into account property lines and topography and such. And we took that and really started to look at what the positives and negatives are. So we'll go through each of these and we'll list the pros and cons. So the Blake piece of property is indeed the closest to Hunter High School. That's a positive. There is water and gas available. And when you look geographically in Wetzel County, it is closest to the geographic center. So if you're looking at purely at the property boundaries, it's right pretty close to the center of the county. Now, the cons, there is a significant list of cons. And I will tell you, as we began to really dug in and not necessarily fully engineer, but put our engineers and architects hat on and really dig into the Blake property, there were more and more things that came up that told us that this is probably going to move pretty quickly to the bottom of the list. And some of these are things that are cons on each of the pieces of property. For example, a new bridge is required. It is the shortest bridge of any of the bridges we would have to build, so that is a positive. One of the negatives, it is too small for all facilities to fit, and when I say all, I would mean the consolidated high school, a consolidated middle school, and potentially a CTE, Career and Technical Center in the future, okay? With that, that means that there would be no room for expansion either. So that would really kind of paint yourselves into a corner. It is the furthest school from Valley Wetzel High School, which is one of the concerns. We tried to look as the bus would drive to each of these locations to determine which made the most sense. One of the things that's very important with school facilities is making sure we have a secondary means of egress and access to the property. For emergency vehicles, for example, on game night, for fire trucks in the event of an emergency. There is no way to physically get a secondary means of egress and access to this site. It does have the longer bus rides for the majority of students. The thing that turns out to be the most daunting challenge with this piece of property is the topography. And you all live here, you understand the terrain. You're very limited on flat property. What generally is flat is predominantly in the floodplain. So this piece of property has a significant amount of dirt that would need to be hauled off. And when you have to haul dirt off, the cost goes up, specifically when you can't spoil the dirt on site. So there is a major cost there. And once we get through each of these pieces of property at the end, I have put together what I've called a property investment calculation that sort of shows the value of each of these pieces. Any questions on the Blake, or do you want to go through and we'll ask at the end? Okay. So the next piece that really prompted our interest is what we've called the Fluharty property. And again, we took a really deep dive into this piece because initially it seemed to make the most sense for a number of reasons. And the number one reason there is all of the amenities fit on site. It is the largest piece of property of the three. It is closest to the majority of your student population at Magnolia and Hayden City, which was very positive. It does have public water and electric available, which is great. I mentioned it is the largest parcel. Now here's where the negatives come in. As you may or may not know, there is a rail crossing at the site. And it is not a gated rail crossing. Traditionally, anytime you deal with crossing the railroad, you get into significant challenges. So we started looking at what we might be able to do to mitigate that. And we went as far as, can we bridge over Fishing Creek as well as over the railroad, which, as you can imagine, astronomically took the price up. It would still require a new bridge, even though there is a fairly new bridge that goes over Fishing Creek. There would be another bridge that would need to go that goes over the stream that comes through there. And we looked at a number of different ways that would take place. That existing bridge is not wide enough for school bus and vehicular traffic, so it would need to be widened. We looked at potentially a lane to a lane and a half widening so that you would have two exits out of the piece and another piece in. When we started looking at the wetland areas on site, we were sort of stunned at the amount of streams and wetland areas that are on that piece of property. And anytime you get into that, you have significant mitigation costs to either replace or relocate the wetlands. There are several grave sites nearby, and which really kind of painted us into a corner when we started to grade out the property to look at how the school sites might fit on there. So that was a challenge. There is no natural gas available. Obviously, natural gas is a preferred option for heating. It's much cheaper and more efficient. And there would be no room for expansion there as well, assuming we built all of the facilities necessary. The railroad there is obviously the biggest challenge. And the last piece of property that I think is the main sort of reason we're here tonight is the McDiffit property. The McDiffit property actually came to us when McDiffit's reached out to the county and said, hey, why don't you come take a look at this? And we have started vetting this. We were pretty deep into the vetting process on this. And there are a number of positives here that do indeed outweigh the cons. For one, all of the amenities fit on site. You do have room for expansion because there is property that would be part of the acquisition that could be expanded for community facilities, FFA facilities, various programs that would support the school. There is also the potential, in the event that the county wanted to buy additional property from the McDiffits in the future, that you could expand further there as well. So that's positive. We have not found any major environmental concerns. One of the positives there is with the Williams pipeline that runs through the property, there has been a significant amount of environmental due diligence that's been done. Our environmental staff has started the process of coordinating with their environmental staff to sort of, make sure there's no landmines there, so to speak, and to expedite that process. It does create the largest building pad, which is great, meaning that we could essentially put all of the facilities on a relatively flat site, which is encouraging, specifically when you look at athletic facilities, FFA facilities, outdoor classrooms, etc. There is natural gas, water, and electric available there, which is great. And it is the most central location to Valley, Peyton City, and Magnolia, which is good. The thing that is a bonus, I believe, here is you do have a secondary access road. And the secondary access road comes with a 100-foot bridge right-of-way that is there that will allow us to have construction traffic on this while we build, or while we start the school construction in the event you vote to do that. Which is good, because on the other sites, we would have to build the bridge first before we could really do any of that. As with any piece of property, there are some cons. There is an additional cost associated with relocating that Williams gas line. It's a 20-inch line that was put in about 13 years ago. We have been in contact with Williams and been able to negotiate the price, the budget to do that work. The lower portion of the property, which which runs along Fishing Creek, is in the floodplain, although there appears to be varying opinions on whether it has ever flooded or not. So those are the areas, again, where we start to look at ancillary facilities that could support the community, or the communities that this school will serve. It does require multiple purchase agreements. There are 3 McDiffits there that we have worked through on that. And it requires the longest bridge of any of the sites. Now, I will tell you, there is some flexibility on the bridge location there. There is an existing bridge right-of-way that crosses Fishing Creek, but we as engineers and architects, we need to do a little better job of vetting with the DOH, visibility and those things. So there may be a need to shift that right-of-way, but there is one in place. If you've all been to the new Doddridge Early Childhood Academy, that is essentially the length of bridge we would have at this site. So at the end here, again, this is a regurgitation of everything that you have seen there, just on one page. But I think the most valuable piece of this is an exercise we typically try to do, because if you're like me, if I'm gonna make a financial decision, you wanna know what the true comparison is for dollars. So what we did is we tried to break it down into basic, easily digestible buckets. And we had the land cost for each of the pieces. And then what we did is we tried to look at things that were unique to each piece of property. If you have to build a bridge, we didn't factor that into this comparison. If you have to build an extra bridge or expand a bridge, we tried to factor it in. And the reason we did that is we wanted to sort of level the playing field for each of these so that you could make an educated decision. So you can see on the Blake property there, the biggest component that drives that price through the roof is the dirt export. And that is a conservative number at this piece. I mean, we crunched it to a certain degree, but when you start to look at where we might waste the material, the fact that the trucks need to be on the road, that is why that cost goes up as high as it does. There are wetland and streams there that we know we have to deal with. While it didn't have the highest property purchase price, you can see that the total investment there is just shy of $19.5 million. That's a big nut to crack for a new facility. The Fluharty property, again, they were the cheapest piece of property at $2.5 million. What we did is, the unique instance there is that we would have to do a bridge widening. So we plugged in $1.5 million for that. And then, as I mentioned before, the significant number of wetlands and streams that are on site, our environmental team estimated that at $3 million. So that's a $7 million investment. But the key to this is, you'll see my note there, that does not include a premium for bridging over the railroad. So you still have to deal with the railroad crossing, which is concerning. And lastly is the McDiffit property. They, of course, had the highest property cost. The only unique circumstance there is the gas line relocation. And as I mentioned, we have been working with Williams to get a preliminary budget for that of $2 million. Now, one thing to note there is there has not been a discussion about any in-kind services there with that, so there may be something there that may take place. But when you add all of those up, you can see that the investment, the edge goes to the McDiffit property, which is the one that we've clearly vetted the most here of late through some more due diligence. So that's a lot of information to digest. Again, I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you might have.
This has nothing to do with the cost of building the school, this is
Nothing.
just getting the land and the bridges.
Correct, yes.
I noticed on the Fluharty property, you put $1.5 million to build a bridge. On the McDiffit property, you put none.
So the reason for that is, sir, is we are building a new bridge at each piece of property. So I took that out of the equation. The thing that's unique to Fluharty is we not only have to build a bridge, but we have to widen the existing bridge. So that's why that $1.5 million is in there.
So what do you estimate, do you think the bridge, building the bridge at McDiffit property?
1.6, 1.7 million. And those are relatively recent numbers.
So you're telling me that you can build a bridge for 1.6 million at the McDiffit property, which is 150 feet long, but to widen this at the Fluharty is only $1.5 million.
Yes. Yeah, there are some unique situations with widening a bridge that you don't have to deal with a new bridge. And again, the new bridge construction number, it has been interpolated and escalated from what we did recently at Doddridge County. That bridge was coincidentally 160 feet long, and it was right around 1.48 million. So, good question, because it's tough to. What I didn't want to do is put something on here that would sway it one direction or the other, so I had to just sort of push aside the things that were typical for each piece.
So you said that to build a bridge at McDiffit property is how much?
1.6 million.
So now we're at 6 million right here, so now we're adding about $7.5 million to that.
Yep.
But you would add that to each one.
You would add that to
Each
each.
one.
Because each
Well, not
one,
necessarily, because the Blake property isn't 150 feet long.
It's
Why?
not. I can actually tell you what that bridge length is. I don't think it would be quite half.
And putting a bridge in at two of the places gives you the one-way in and out. Putting a bridge at the third place, you already have one-way in, so it gives you that second way. That's been a big
Yeah.
pointer of mine before we even picked anything, cause I want
McDiffert's
safety.
the only one that has the two entrance and exit twice.
And I actually, the bridge at McDiffit is 150 feet, or no, I'm sorry, 160 feet. The bridge at Blake is 100 feet, so it's a little more than half.
Remember, all of them would have to have a bridge. The figures that he gave was only above and beyond the bridge figure.
True, but to build a bridge in the McDiffit property, we're now at $7.5 million, or $8 million per se. Where the Fluharty is $7 million, which has the bridge binding already in that, and there's no price on the Blake property for a bridge.
And so that, the bridge is just one of the factors I think we can talk about.
That is a big factor.
It is, but like we're also expansion of the property, wetlands, mitigation, I mean, that's why it's a side-by-side comparison. So the bridge is a factor that we would have to contend with all three of the properties.
And if you look at the McDiffit property versus 100 West Virginia and all the surrounding areas, look how far them kids are gonna have to travel just to get to there.
You are correct, and
And
we,
that's the farthest away there is, and that's not fair to the people in Hundred, it's not fair to the people who live out in Proctor, and it's just not.
so there is going to be some travel time, no matter what site we pick. And when we, like Dr. Monceau was talking about different properties and different consolidated schools, there is a drive time. Depending on where people choose to live, and depending on where we do build a facility, some kids will have a longer drive time and some kids will have a shorter drive time. The central location of our children, or the majority of the children that we serve, live in the Magnolia, Payne City, and Valley area. So it's kind of one of those things you just have to weigh. It's, some children will be on the bus a little bit longer than others, correct?
So we just throw the 100 people under the bus.
We never, ever said that.
I am.
I was always for first of all, thank you for reiterating this so that the people that weren't in the closed session can hear, because it's very important to see the numbers. And if, I don't know that the people that are watching the meeting actually can see the numbers, but I think it's important that they realize that, one was $19.5 million due to dirt removal. That's a huge chunk, but I have always been, my preference was on Route 7. That's central to the county. It was central to everybody here. There's just nothing there. We've sent them out there multiple times. People would call one of us and say, go check this property, go check that. It's not there. So this is not perfect. This property is not in a perfect location, but it's what we have. It's what we have, I wish that someone would have dropped the perfect parcel right in the center of Wetzel County, but it didn't occur.
And we had some that were considered that were more central, but they wouldn't work.
Don't invest something this amount of money and time and temporary inconvenience if you can't build the entire thing there. You know, you might as well stay at two schools if you can't build the entire thing and reap all the benefits of a large consolidated facility with a tech center. So I agree, this is not perfect, Jimmy, it's not. You
But
know,
two
I
school-
would
two
very
schools
much prefer Route 7.
2 schools be perfect.
Well,
From our standpoint, it would not. Simply because of the opportunities that can be afforded to our students and being able to have enough staffing to cover everything. We're doing the best we can right now with the 2 schools, but clearly it could be better. And our kids, they deserve every opportunity that we can give them, and 2 schools won't do that.
just the new courses that you showed us today, I'm just sitting there imagining, you know, that they could all have the same thing, which is the goal. And I've been on this board officially a year this month, and we've been looking for property on Route 7, or was it 15 years, I can't remember. And we've been looking for property for a year,
And let me
We've
say
been looking for
something.
property for almost 2 years.
Well,
but I'm
we've
aware
been looking
of
for property for well over that. I mean, I've been treasurer here since 2001. This didn't start with Thrasher, it didn't start with Mrs. Porter. We've always tried to find something. And I know there's people out there, I've had a chance, I don't say I'll ever get over the sticker shock that we're seeing here. I'm not gonna get over it for a while, but I've had a chance to digest it. The public here is just seeing some of this now. I'm sure there's some sticker shock out there.
Right.
But I want people to realize this has been going on for a long time where we've been looking for a property. Years and years and years. Wetzel County's different. It's just different. And the properties, you say you've looked at 10, the properties we've looked at, there's no great value where we look and say, wow, that price is a good price. There's not. So you're comparing apples to apples. All the prices are similar as far as the acreage. The other stuff you put together, I think, pretty well here.
I grew up in Silver Hill. I have never had a short bus ride, and I have a kid that drives, and we are on a dirt road, no guardrail, well traffic. If it's paved, great. If it has guardrails, great. That's on me as a parent to just hope she drives safely and everybody else does too. She's not gonna be driving there, but one of mine are, definitely one of them. And I think that's just part of it. We didn't shift schools to make it safer for the ones that have been driving for years. And now that we're doing this, that's what I've been hearing a lot of, that road's not gonna change. It's been that way. What about the kids that drive this way anyway? That's just where I'm at with that.
And when you travel from out there, cause you know that area way better than me, would they be coming into New Martinsville and then going out, or is there a way to cut across?
We cut across ridges. Like, it's actually quicker for my kids to go to 100 if we wanted to. Pretty much same drive time, just a couple ridges. But just sticking around in here for now, but we'll go wherever we need to.
For what's best.
I actually, on that point, took a look today to see what the travel times and mileage were from each of the main feeder areas to both of these pieces of property. And specific to 100 to McDiffit was 43 minutes and 29 miles, and 100 to Blake was 30 minutes and 22 miles. So it's a 13-minute difference for 100 students to both of those pieces of property. And I did the same Valley. It's 12 minutes to McDiffit, which is 8 miles, and 22 minutes to Blake, which is 13 miles. I pulled from Peyton City to McDiffit was 21 minutes, which is 14 miles. Peyton City to Blake is 23 minutes and 15 miles. Magnolia to McDiffit, 17 minutes and 10 miles. And to Blake, 19 minutes and 11 miles. So when you kind of look at that, I was shocked that the times there wasn't more of a discrepancy, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And I looked at it a number of different ways, coming back on Route 7 to New Martinsville and over 20 or over the ridges, like you said, and based on Apple Maps and Google Maps, it's about a 2-minute difference. So course, it depends on where people live in their region, so. But I think for my own peace of mind, I needed to see sort of what those travel times were.
Teresa,
And we've
what's
had
the time, what's the time now from Hundred to the tech center?
It's a good hour.
An hour?
Yeah, with all the truck traffic, yes.
So would that be a change for Hundred from, as compared to coming from Hundred to the tech center as Hundred to the McDiffit property? Would it be similar?
So, again, truck traffic, Barker's got a lot of traffic on Anderson Ridge right now, probably be similar, yes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes difference from 100 to Fluharty, or no, to Blake. It's 5 minutes closer from 100 to McDiffit than going from 100 to Fluharty.
I'm at the tech center. They're currently driving from
They're
Hundred to
coming
the
to
tech
the
center.
center now from
Right,
100.
correct?
Right,
Some of
yes,
And that's about an hour
yeah,
trip?
yeah.
Some
Could
go
be
to
anywhere.
North Marion also though, don't they?
They started last year, but then there was nobody left to go, so they changed schools, so. Yeah, we were driving there, which was even shorter than coming to the tech center, actually, from 100.
There was very few. We had one student that would go to the Moth High. And like
Yes.
she said, there wasn't a need the second semester.
My son used to go from Folsom to Valley, got on the bus to go to Hundred, and then he went over to get his red hat every day for 2 years. And that's, we lived there, we were Folsom, Wetzel County, Harrison County line. So he drove himself down to Valley, cause he had to be there early to get on the bus to go to Hundred, and from Hundred he went over to Marion County every day for
Our
2
county
years.
is not easy
No.
to traverse.
When I think back a year ago, I mean, I voted to close Hundred and Payton City Schools only because we were going to one school. For me now to stop, you know, I wouldn't have voted that way. You all know how tough our decision was, but we were working toward one school. That's the only reason I voted to close those 2 schools, so you know, it would be difficult for me to stop now.
I can really appreciate where Mr. Glasscock is coming from. Last year, being in Hundred, there was a lot of times I kind of felt like I was on an island, being a new administrator. And, this year, when we come together as a team and, with these amazing administrators that we have here, I just really feel that we're so far ahead. And when you pour resources together and have so many talented people that are working towards the same goals and consistency, with Jackie and Melanie, it's just been unbelievable the experience that I've had over this month to where we've come together, and then with Shelley as well. So I have very faith in the process of what we're doing here, and I believe in it. And there's going to be challenges along the way, no matter what you do. But I honestly believe this group here is very impressive, and they can accomplish what we need, what's best for the kids.
I wanna make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss a few things about the property purchasing. And it would be, I'll make the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Vaughn and seconded by Mrs. Mitchell. And the property motion is per West Virginia Code 6-9A-4B-9 to discuss financial property matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, or lease of property or advanced construction planning. It's been moved by Mrs. Vaughn and seconded by Mrs. Mitchell. All those in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're going into executive session at 6:35. back to order. We left executive session at 7:39 with Mrs. Nice making the motion and Mrs. Mitchell seconded it, and it was a unanimous decision to come back to regular session. It is now 7:43. Okay, so for the,
Can we have some more discussion about the purchase property and stuff to make sure that everybody knows a few things that people might not know? A few meetings ago, I remember maybe I was the one that said, or somebody said, that sometimes it feels like if you were planning on purchasing a piece of property before you had actually made the final decision to consolidate, you were putting the cart before the horse. But we learned from our legal advisors as to why you might need to do that, and
Right.
wondered if you would elaborate on that, you or Ben.
Okay. So, I mean, we did check with the Department of Ed and everything, and it's not abnormal to purchase property, and sometimes, some of our neighboring counties have sat on property for 10 or 12 years, waiting to build things. You know, when you go to make a decision about a consolidated school, you have to have a location, you know, because if you guys remember in the fall, part of your impact statement included travel times from various schools. It was a little easier because we were going to an existing school, but you know, you could have a little bit of leeway with, you know, half a mile or a mile or so there maybe if you weren't sure about location, but we're talking about, you know, you couldn't say, you know, 20 miles
Somewhere
difference.
in Wetzel
Right, you
County.
couldn't say somewhere in Wetzel County, that wouldn't pass.
So sometimes you do put the horse,
Sometimes you have the cart and the horse beside each other.
okay, thank you.
good point.
Any other thing that you need clarified, or is there any other thing that anyone needs to add in?
I'm just gonna say that, we got the purchase agreement, which is like 50 pages long, and some people did not have enough time to thoroughly go through it. So we will not vote on that tonight, because this is a big decision and we need to make sure everybody is well informed. So we will, plan on doing that at the next meeting on the agenda on the 12th.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, so now, number 8, discussion and possible action of board goals for the 25-26 school year. At the last meeting, I gave you guys a piece of paper that said possible board goals, the ones that we used last year, and you had asked, could it be changed, and the answer was yes, it can be changed, and I should just make sure that we know. Do you want me to reread them in case you didn't bring them with you? Okay. Okay.
Please.
I kinda figured that, that's why I brought them. Okay, possible goals, and we can revise these, change them, whatever. First one, of course, deals with the mission, to stay committed to our mission and base our decisions on it. And it is, of course, educating individuals for success. Our second one dealt with, board goals with the superintendent, and the first one is to refer issues and provide feedback to the superintendent. Not just to talk and gab about them, but let her know so that we're getting it, and to evaluate the superintendent on a clear set of expectations developed by the superintendent and the board, which we have done for years. Third was on student achievement and performance, to engage in discussions about student performance and achievement, meaning when you give us all the testing back, we need to be listening to it, asking questions, being a part of it, so that we see what's going on and how we can move forward. Under policy, we need to focus on state and local policy as opposed to management. We are not in charge of running the school system. We are in charge, though, of making sure we know the policies locally and statewide. And if you don't know where to go to for that, wvsba.com and wvde.edu and wvde.edu, or you can just do a search and say West Virginia policy on, so that we need to be doing that. And community, to interact with community through board meetings, school events, community events. Is there anything you want changed, anything you want added, or do you wanna do something completely new?
I move we accept those as the board goals for the coming year.
Okay,
I will second that.
so moved by Mr. Castello and seconded by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries unanimously. So that's the board goals. Okay, the last thing on the board discussion on class rank. there have been many people that have contacted me, I don't know about you guys, about valedictorian, salutatorian, dual credit, not dual credit, highest honors, you know, high honors, honors. How do we wanna do that? We need to, just get some input on what we feel, or,
So we met as a committee, again, Mr. Barkus and Mrs. Mitchell and I.
Let me go ahead and,
Sure.
okay. So, Mrs. Porter, Mr. Houston and I have been discussing this all summer long. And this is the information we'd like to share with all of you tonight regarding class ranks. So I typed this out, there were several points. Class ranks, specifically valedictorians and salutatorians, has been an issue for many, many years. If you look at the policy, it's been changed multiple times in the last 25 years, especially in the last decade. It's occasionally a problem at Valley High School. It's almost a problem yearly at Magnolia High School. The valedictorian and salutatorian became many years ago to be a chase of weighted grades. Many counties and high schools across the state refer to this as the game. Mrs. Porter, Mr. Houston, and I feel that students would be better served if we did not recognize a valedictorian and salutatorian, and instead recognize the three-class system. Highest honors would be 4.0 and above, high honors 375 to 399, and honors 35 to 374. We feel this would allow us to focus more on personalized plans for each student in order to foster a learning environment where students will take classes they need and they want, instead of too often playing a math game to inflate their GPA. We have changed our policy several times, trying to make this fair, but far too often has been a concern, which leads to another policy change. We've tried to be simple, we've tried a very complicated formula, we've never been able to make it work. The math chase of weighted grades, in our opinion, is not what is best for their futures when students are choosing to take their classes that they will not need for their chosen paths after graduation. Some other things we've discussed and examples of how this process has evolved over the years: colleges doing away with valedictorian scholarships, colleges becoming test optional for admissions. Colleges have chosen to evolve as they know the game exists. They know it's impossible to fairly compare students within a school when the ceiling of different programs are weighted unevenly, and when the ceiling from county to county is different because of the number of weighted grade courses that are offered from county to county. So for example, one county, because of your weighted grades, the ceiling may be like a 4.4. Other counties may be a 4.8. So we know this is going to be unpopular to a group of parents and others who feel like we are taking away tradition, but colleges have already evolved, and we strongly believe it's best for students and their futures if we remove that part of the policy as well.
I don't think a title should value you any less or your education. We're still giving recognition, and I think this gives more across the board for kids that don't just do particular things. So I like that.
Do we have to move to have that created into a policy to be presented to the board, or?
What we could do is we could delete the policy that we have.
Okay, and
then put that in?
The 3 honors, we already have that in another policy.
Okay.
Because several years ago, probably a decade ago, we looked at removing valedictorian and salutatorian at that time. And at that point in time, we kept it, but as a concession, we added the 3 highest honors, high honors, and
I'll be
honors.
honest, at the last meeting, we were glad to hear there was gonna be more dual credit at the tech center, but all of a sudden I went, does that give them an advantage that you couldn't get somewhere else? Cause I've talked to you about that
Yes.
concern.
We felt this
By
way
doing
you
this-
could do what you wanted or you were interested in and not have to be chasing that
A title.
Because, for example, I'm just trying to think, I know, my daughter goes out there and has that opportunity, but someone here could be having, their grades could be, way better, or because they have to stay at this school to do certain classes, that's just not fair for them if they're both excelling.
and I think that was well explained to us previously, how everything got messed up and everything like that. So the move would just be to
Delete the policy.
straight valedictorian salutatorian.
We would just, yes, the policy is selection of high school valedictorians and salutatorians, we would just delete that policy.
And present it for, oh,
I don't
And-
have anything on here as a
And we
move.
would do the highest honors,
Which is already covered.
highest honors, what were the three things again?
Highest honors, high honors,
High honors,
and
and
honors.
And so if you were highest honors, and you're filling out something that does ask you, you can put down your highest honors.
Correct. And that'd be for anyone who's a 4.0 and above.
And in Wetzel County, we have the possibility to be a 5.0 because of a particular state program at the tech center. So ours could be 4.0 and above, up to 5, right?
The 5.0 is possible for the Grow Your Own program.
Right.
Which is to develop future teachers because of the teacher shortage.
And that's something that we do not mandate, that's a state program that was given, the parameters were given to us and we cannot change that.
Correct.
We can't say you're not gonna get 5 credit hours for that, that's mandated by the state and we can't bring them all down to
Well, and the sad
equal
thing is, if they were doing it in the high school still, they wouldn't be able to take as many
Exactly.
because of the rigidity of that.
And that was created by the state to address the shortage.
Right.
So,
Which is great, because
It
it
is
gives
great.
those kids all that opportunity to take those college classes and be farther ahead for when they do go to college and get that teacher program prep, get that turnover a little bit faster, so that idea is great. But
Yes.
this would level the playing field for whether you were Grow Your Own or, college-bound AP.
no, we just had
chemistry.
this down as class rank, so or discussion, we don't have it down for voting.
Correct.
So we'll have to put that on the next agenda.
Correct.
Do you want that there, or do you want Todd just to do it under the first, like under another,
It'd
like
be
a
a first reading
of
policy
a
change.
First reading policy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've been in this position for 15 years. We've talked about this on and
Oh,
off
how
for at
many
least
times?
15 years.
Yeah, I used
At
to have
least.
policy, we
Yes.
tried.
and numerous times
Yes.
in 15 years
Yes.
before that also.
Yes.
Okay, so Todd will just.
Yeah.
Okay, board meeting, board member committee reports,
No.
nothing for you, no? Nobody?
No.
No? Okay,
We haven't-
you haven't heard anything about the radios lately?
No, we're still discussing it.
Okay. Okay,
Haven't got to talk on them yet?
Yeah, well, we use them at the, all the fire departments use the statewide radios now, and they work great. So all we need to do is try to get involved, and get the county commissioners involved, which we already have, and, get them to approve it and get things rolling.
okay, good, thank you. Okay, we already did the delegations, I moved it up. Under other items,
I think we've covered this
a
several
lot
times.
tonight, yeah, I think so too.
Is this the point to where we can add something to next week's agenda or
Yes.
next month's? I'd like to put something on there about the discussion of the Valley High football field, the hillside and the fencing and the drain area,
So-
unless you guys can discuss it.
Can I have Jamie talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm meeting the fence company out there on Thursday. We're gonna be out there at noon to look at the fence. I don't know, the hillside's the hillside. I mean, we just, every year or so, we just dig some of it out. There's not much we can do unless you wanna take a quarter of the budget for the new school to try to build a retaining wall against against the hillside to try to hold that. The drains, like I said, we've got French drains in there. We've added extra French drains.
You've had WVU out there, or somebody's had WVU out, engineers out there looking at that
Yeah.
from time to time over the years.
Yeah.
The drain I'm talking about are the 3 pieces of plywood covering.
Yeah, I don't know why the plywood's there. Somebody must have just laid it there to just keep mud out of it. I don't know why that's there. It shouldn't be there. Like I said, we're gonna be out there, Jackie and I are gonna meet the fence company out there on Thursday and, see what he can do with the fence. I can't see putting any more money and keep putting that fence up the hill and up the hill just for every year or so for it to slip down.
I
So,
agree.
so it just needs to come across the back of the bleachers and just stop and then
And
if we
then
have,
that would,
when we
that
have
would prevent access to that.
yeah, just bring it
drain.
to the backside, and then when it comes time that we need to do some more digging, we just take a section of fence out and let them do it and put it back. Because they keep, over the years, they just keep moving the fence and then it slides down. And you move the fence, it's just perpetuating a lot of wasted money that I don't think we need to do anymore.
Do you still want that on the agenda?
Nope, that's what we want there.
Yeah.
But you can report back to us at
Yeah.
the next meeting about
Yeah,
how it goes with the
we're gonna
fencing
meet them,
company.
we gotta meet them out there at noon.
Thank you very much.
It was just on
We
the
need some
agenda.
gravel in the parking lot out there.
Oh, yeah, we can
And
get that
then-
anytime, all you school has to do is just request it, we can get gravel jumped out
Now,
there
when
anytime.
you're entering the cut short. We need to add somewhere there.
Well, I don't know if that's us, that's on the city, I don't know if they'll let us.
Wait a minute, it's on our property, I think, because the parking lot belongs to us and this.
Does the parking lot belong to us? I think we just got a right of way going through to where we're at, and then the city owns back to get
So
to the
the
sewer
city owns
plant
our
right
parking lot?
Well, we don't have much of a parking lot, we've just got that little, basically where we tore the old field house down, that they've got gravel in now, that's what we own there. I think the right of way goes straight back through.
So
We
we
can
ask
get
you,
gravel.
when you report back on how the fencing goes, if you could just check
Yeah,
into that.
yeah,
for us
we can
too,
get, I mean, all the
report
valley
that
has
to
to do
me.
is request gravel, we can have gravel out there anytime we want.
We need gravel.
I'll get right on. One more item.
I'll even
This
bring the
beautiful
crackers.
picture on,
Yeah.
the beautiful pictures on the monitors, are we,
So
is
that's a
the public?
mock-up, yes, the public can see that, and that is just a mock-up of the property that we are currently discussing, and we are going to put on the next board meeting on the 12th to make a vote on. But that is just so you can see what a potential, nothing has been set in stone, nothing has been voted on as far as exterior, interior, what it would comprise of, but that is an idea of what the middle school, high school, and CTE could look like on the McDiffit property, which we've been discussing.
And the middle school and the high school are
Two separate
areas.
Yeah, the middle school entrance is all the way over here,
Where that bus is coming in up the side there.
Yeah.
Like
and the high
that's-
school entrance would be in the front. There,
That's a, yeah, middle school.
it would be two, it would be a division, but yes.
And are there additional, renderings that the public can also somehow see of interior?
Well, I don't think, oh, yeah,
Now here's this, if you
let's see. This is just some other shots. This would be, again, nothing has, this is just, that's the middle school side, a potential.
Just something to give you a picture to
So
look
we
at.
they had to, put a footprint on all the properties, and this is what the footprint would look like on the McDiffit property. This mouse is giving me a little bit of fits. There we go.
And we would have, I just wanna verify, we would have, when we're building the auditorium, we would have the fine arts teachers involved in what we need and all that, and when we're
Yes.
doing the weight rooms or the football fields, we'll have the coaches and the
This would have to be a
PE.
community
This would be
project.
planning.
Correct. This is
all
not,
input.
all
Community
state,
stakeholders.
Community input.
input stakeholders, right, and Mrs. Fonner was just talking, right here would be a potential auditorium, which, Amanda, am I the only one that has access to the mouse right now?
Yes, I mean, I can.
The drive-through of the, auditorium is kind of exciting. Can I hand you the mouse, or what do you want, what can I do?
Let's see. Get
There we go.
There you
So
go.
yeah, that's a possible rendering of what a county auditorium, which would be used by all students in the entire county. Yeah.
I like it when it goes further, you can see the levels.
We want that.
It's pretty stunning.
We deserve
mean,
that.
We deserve that, our
Our
kids
kids
deserve
deserve
that.
Our kids
We
deserve
deserve
that,
it.
yes, yes. So Thrasher's done a great job of helping us get some visuals put in there. There's a couple other flybys. Again, this is all stuff that would have to be, a stakeholder project. Like, what would our fine arts people think would go into this? I know Dr. Emsch is super into fine arts. I mean, he would definitely wanna be at the table when we talked about things that an auditorium of this,
He would want
magnitude.
dinosaur wallpaper though.
Well, why stop there? I mean,
We currently don't have a place for even all of our employees to meet at one time.
No.
I mean, and this could be community and student, or, I mean, this is just,
Well, we used to sit on the bleachers in the gym back in the day, a long time ago, and it was hotter than blazes in
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So,
Some of these
thanks
people
to,
sat in there with us.
that's just a little flyby. Anything
Thank
else you
you.
want us to fly by?
That was-
Is there anything else?
Is there anything else?
But there's a few, Amanda's got control now. Let's see, that's,
I'm getting dizzy.
Dizzier.
What's the next one?
Okay. That's why she's showing somebody else. Okay.
there we go. They have the gymnasiums and a common
You
area.
can have multiple,
There's an example of what, and when I was working with Thrasher, I said that we need to make sure when we do all this kind of new designing that it reflects us and, the West Virginia spirit and doesn't take away from the topography and the mountains, so, you know, I mean, it'd be
It's a
nice if we
work
could
in
build a
progress.
giant Cabela's looking thing, but that'd be a lot of maintenance, so.
Okay, then, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Castillo, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are out at